Neva is a company that you've likely never heard of before, yet it's one of the most important startups of 2021. What exactly is Neva, and what makes it so important? The answer to the first question is simple. Neva is a search engine. The answer to the second question is much more complex and interesting. Neva is a search engine startup, and on the surface, that sounds like it competes with one of the largest technology companies in the world, Google. While they offer the same product at their core, Neva and Google are exactly opposite businesses. Google is an advertising company that has a search engine product. Neva is a subscription search engine that doesn't run ads. What makes Neva revolutionary is that it's the first search engine product that doesn't share Google's monetization strategy of showing ads and promoting products to its users. Let's look into why this is so important. Monopoly. A monopoly is said to exist when a specific person or enterprise is the only supplier of a given product or service. Monopolies are terrible for competition because of several reasons. They stifle innovation because they have no incentive to innovate. Even if their product stops being as valuable as it once was, customers have nowhere else to go. Monopolies' size, power, or barriers to entry prevent new players from entering the market and trying to compete with the monopoly. A monopoly can raise prices as high as it wants without any repercussions because there is no alternative to go to. All of these result in consumer harm, and that is the main goal of regulators when going after monopoly power, to keep consumers safe. Google has a monopoly on search. You could say that there are competitors like Microsoft's Bing. You could also make an argument that more niche search functionality in other companies also competes with Google, Airbnb for vacation rentals, or Amazon for products, for example. And you could even say that Google doesn't harm the consumer because Google is free. And how could a free product harm the consumer? The problem is twofold. Google has no real competitor, making it a monopoly, and Google's monopoly power does in fact harm the end user. Nothing in life is free. There is always a cost or a trade-off. Google seems free to use. You can type in as many questions or queries as you want, and Google will give you the answer without ever asking for your credit card. Something to understand about technology companies is when something is free, you aren't the customer, you are the product. While you don't pay Google with your money, you pay with your attention and your data. By using Google, you opt in to having your personal data collected, analyzed, and sold to advertisers who want to display certain ads to certain users. This system may be just fine for you, and you may even prefer having your data collected and used as long as Google's search functionality remains free, and that's great. The problem is, what about the people who don't want their data collected and sold? What about the people who prefer privacy? And what about the people who just don't want to see ads and are willing to pay for that? Being such a dominant monopoly, Google prevents competitors from starting up. How is anyone supposed to start a company to offer a competitive product against the company who literally controls 90% of all search? Even venture capital firms are afraid to go against Google. Google could, if they wanted, just block all search queries and traffic from ever showing their competitor's website and kill any potential competition before it even began. Such market dominance is bad for consumers, bad for advertisers, bad for the marketplace, and even bad for Google. customers have only one real option for search. If they don't like the business model or company, they essentially have no option to choose a competitor because there isn't one. Advertisers who want to run search ads have to pay whatever price Google tells them. They literally have no other option and are at the mercy of Google at all times. Innovation is dampened because Google has won. It has no competition and therefore no reason to innovate. It is instead incentivized to extract the highest possible rents from its customers. Why spend billions in R&D when you can instead spend that money on share buybacks or dividends for investors? And it's even bad for Google. Not only are they incentivized not to invest in their own product, but they also attract government and regulatory scrutiny. If Google had, say, a 40 to 50% share of search, there would be many fewer calls to break up the company, less lawsuits, and fewer days for executives spent testifying in front of congressional antitrust hearings. It isn't that Google is a bad company, far from it. It's that everyone, Google included, benefits from competition in the marketplace. It's a foundational part of capitalism. This is why Neva, as the first real competitor to Google, is so important. So, what makes Neva different, and not just a ripoff of Google with a different logo? Neva is a subscription search engine. You pay $4.95 a month to use the service. This monetization strategy is the key difference between the two companies. Neva charges you directly for use, doesn't run ads, and doesn't sell your data to advertisers. Google is free to use, makes all its money off of ads, and collects your data in exchange for use. While both companies offer search products, they are going after fundamentally different markets. Neva is directly addressing market segments that Google isn't interested in. Premium users willing to pay for an ad-free experience, privacy-focused users who are concerned about how their data is collected and used, and I'd argue feature users who want a search algorithm that shows them better search results as opposed to ads. That last user segment is important because Google has no incentive to make their search algorithm show stronger, better results to the users. They are incentivized to show certain ads to those users. Neva, being paid by customers rather than advertisers, is incentivized to make their pure search algorithm as strong as possible to compete with Google and make the experience more valuable for paying users. Oh, and Neva was actually founded by ex-Google engineers who worked on the original search algorithm implementation but disagreed with how the company monetized search. So the underlying technology is going to be on par with or even exceed Google in pure functionality and user experience. This new competition is going to be amazing for all parties involved. Customers now have more choice, not just in companies, but in business models, and will self-sort into whichever company fits their desires best. Google will be forced to innovate more to keep customers using its product, and the result will be a better experience for users of both search engines. And Google will likely appreciate how having a real competitor lessens the antitrust regulation threat. Neva is shaping up to be a promising company with a strong business model, a compelling alternative to big tech, a monetization structure that finally addresses many users' concerns about privacy, and a bold statement about competition in a market segment where, just a couple years ago, it was unthinkable to try and compete with the behemoth in the space. If any aspect of Neva sounds interesting to you, privacy, no ads, or premium subscription model, head over to neva.com and give it a look. And keep an eye out for where this promising new startup goes in the future.